Hello, and welcome to the welcome to the Tonight Show podcast. For today, we are moving the show from Saturdays due to work commitments. Unfortunately, on Sundays, I will have to move the show now for the foreseeable future. But of course, it means we're still going to be reacting to all the big news. We are still technically on a primetime TV slot, so of course, competition remains high for us on UK TVs, but we'll try and make this show all the special. I'm your presenter, Charlie Tiles. Join me tonight is my co-presenter, Zach Chambers, to run up all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Right. Well, we're going to go straight on now and dissect and digest all the biggest news stories of the week. And we've also got a question later regarding a former journalist. I'll be talking about that in a bit. Now, we're going to start off with the main things tonight. Now, we've got the hot headlines as always with the rounding up of the biggest stories. Now, the big news tonight the big news today actually has regarded the junior doctors walking out on strike because the UK government's pay offer wasn't good enough. Now, I believe it was around 5% pay rise, which ended up not being enough for junior doctors to say, hold on a minute, we're actually going to continue more of these strikes. Nurses, doctors, anyone who works in the healthcare provision, they want to go on strike. Some have even said they don't want to even work here. They'd rather immigrate abroad somewhere like Australia, Canada, or America to work over there. So, yeah, find that very interesting. Obviously, we're going to get our thoughts on this tonight. Zach, I have to say, what's your take on the recent news? And do you think the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, has made a bit of an error here?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they've got what we need to see is both sides compromising because, in a negotiation that not every side gets what they want at the end of the day. One of the unions want something, but they won't get all of it. The government wants something, but they won't get all of it either. There's been three sort of separate things that are happening this week in terms of the health service. So let me try and explain what's going on here. First of all, junior doctors. There's three separate things, by the way. Junior doctors, ambulances, and just traditional nurses, okay? Let's start off with the junior doctors because they've been the ones in headlines this week. Tuesday to Thursday, they've been on strike over pay and conditions, which is probably not surprising. They've planned this strike. They voted for the strike to happen, and they've been the biggest walkout in the NHS for junior doctors in the whole of lifetimes. Quite frankly, 24 for 72 hours on the picket lines for all of them involved. I have to say, is certainly quite something. 40 actually it's 48 hours I should say. Tuesday because they've been for 24 and then 70, so that's 40 hours as well. And quite frankly, this looks like it's not going to be resolved anytime soon. Now there might be some misinterpretation for this, but they're basically saying we want our pay to what it was back to what it was before 2010. If you know what 2010 was, between 2023, there is a 35% difference in that. So the assumption is that they all want a 35% pay rise, which, as you know, the government are saying that's unrealistic. We won't enter negotiations on that basis. Then blah blah blah. Junior doctors are saying something else, saying, well, look, this is just a basis for starting. If we don't come to negotiation table, we'll keep striking. That's what's happening so far. I probably would expect actually to have a few more of these strikes that are going to happen in the upcoming future. So I can see it happening personally, in my view, because there is no agreement in sight between either parties in this process. And obviously, the more this keeps happening, the more that junior doctors are going to go strike, and it has real implications in the National Health Service as well, because they can't, it means more appointments are cancelled. more appointment, more people can't get their treatments and all that sort of thing. They can't see stuff like that as well. So that's the implication there. The second thing that happened this week as well, there's two things that happened today, actually. I should point this out as well. Let's start off with number 2, which is the first union, Unison. They hold most of the nurses there. Some nurses, by the way, but they also are responsible for ambulance drivers as well, and ambulance people that drive the ambulances. They have today voted to accept the government's offer. I believe it was around about a 68% yes vote for that, which obviously I think it's about a 5-6% pay rise, one-off offer as well involved in that negotiation. The members of the Unison Union have accepted that offer, so that means that ambulance drivers and all that and some nurses will go back to the workspace now with an improved offer. In that department, I think that's good as well. I mean, it means all the parties have resolved that issue there as well. Actually, I've got 4 things. I'm going to add another one on. Number 3, the RMT has had a new offer from the train providers. Now, we don't know whether they've accepted or not yet. It's possible that will go to the members as well, potentially, depending on what's in that offer and what arrangement about that as well. Number 4 as well, it involves the Royal College of Nurses. So this is separate from the junior doctor scandal as well. The Royal College of Nursing has been balloting their members today, or they've been balloting last members for a couple of days now, on whether to accept an improved payoff as well. It's about 5%, like I said last time, with this as well, with £1,000 one-off offer on that in that front as well. That has been balloted. Now, interestingly, on this one, the leaders in the membership are recommended to their members to accept the pay offers. The members went a totally different way. They rejected it, this new offer, and they announced new strike dates for about the April 28th, April 30th time. They've announced new strike dates. I know Charlie's got his head in his hands. It's absolutely shocking, isn't it? But I should point out, look at the bigger picture here. I still think there is more room for negotiation with the Royal College of Nursing and the government. If you look at the figures today, Charlie, on the actual membership vote, the amount of people that rejected it was 54%. That is a very narrow margin that the members rejected. It's interesting enough, anyway, whether they went against their recommendation by the leadership within the Royal College of Nursing, and they went against it. But the margin was very, very tight. 54% voted no, which is equivalent to around about 46% saying yes. Now, that is very tight. The government will work into that margin, I have to say as well, by looking at that. But I also think as well, with a tight margin, I think the government can up their offer a little bit. And then I think what the Royal College of Nursing should do is put it to the ballot. And if there is a slight improvement in their offer, I probably would expect next time potentially that there'll be a narrow wing to accept the offer. And I do think as well, like in this instance, that potentially there should be just one final slight pay rise for the Royal College of Nursing, and then that ballot could well be out of the way. If it gets a simple majority in the within the RCN ballot, I think next time around they will probably accept a revised, slightly higher revised offer. So I would watch out on the RCN one. Actually, I don't think the government should give this up quite yet. I think they're nearly there. Maybe pop it up by a percentage or more, and then maybe it will have enough votes to push it through next time it's balloted. The RCN internally within its leadership wanted members to accept this. Their members went against. That's fascinating in itself, but it's the margin, I think, of the amount of members that voted against it that really mattered. 54%. It's a majority, but it's a low majority. It's not a big margin at all. And it's something I think to watch out for, because there's another round of strikes happening There is division. It's clear to see that the Royal College of Nursing is now a little bit more divided. Whilst some of the other unions members are sort of more leaning towards accepting offers, if it includes bonuses as well, like, you know, the £1,000 bonuses, an extra 6% as well. So yeah, I think there's still some way in this, but there are some progress, I think, as well. But one of the things is it still means disruption for a lot of people, especially for those Royal College nurses that are going out on strike. It's another set of disruptions for patients and those who need to be looked after as well.
This is the bit that's important up here that I've just highlighted. The 48-hour walkout that the RCN have announced, Royal College of Nursing, will happen from 8 o'clock on the 30th of April to, wait for it, the 2nd of May. So that will coincide with the first bank holiday weekend in May. There are actually 3 bank holidays in May, just to confirm that, because obviously we have the King's coronation, King Charles III's coronation, on the week later. And then there's also another bank holiday at the end of the month for the end of May. So May is full of bank holidays. It's an important month because obviously we also have as well local elections coming up in May as well. So there'll be a lot of pressure on parties. And this is a big moment here for the Conservative Party to really accept pay offers, because otherwise things are not going to go well. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to this current situation regarding pay offers for the government. Can they up the pay offer? And can we stop these strikes from happening? That's the big question right now. Moving on now to the next news story. Now, the next story is regarding something to do with the war in Ukraine now. Is Vladimir Putin unwell? That has been the big rumor over the last week. Now, there have been reports that the Russian president has been treated for cancer. Now, we can't really authorize yet and say whether this is true or not, but there has been emerging evidence to suggest that President Putin of Russia is looking unwell. He's clearly been rattled. We haven't seen a lot from the Russian president lately since that war. Since really for the last few weeks, we haven't seen Putin very much speaking. He's either been in his bunker or he's been very quiet, very silent in the background. Now, it's clear to me that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is appealing for more help as the war escalates, continuing with Russian bombardment in Bakhmut still going on, without any stronghold being reached. Zach, what do you make to the latest news in Ukraine, and particularly regarding President Putin of Russia?
Well, yeah, first of all, obviously, like we said, we can't really verify all these claims that Vladimir Putin has got so-and-so, this health condition, all that sort of thing. It's quite a lot of speculation. But I expect you're probably not going to see Vladimir Putin go out anywhere right now because, quite frankly, you know, he's several things. One, he's pariah on the world stage, as we know. Number two, if he goes out of Russia, anyways, he'll get arrested. Quite frankly, because as you know, the international court has basically given him arrest warrants, and if he goes in any country that's basically supports the International Criminal Court, or is it recognised as a member, then he'll get arrested. Quite frankly, so he ain't going to really leave Russia, and to a country that supports the ICC, in many ways as well. So, you know. There's several reasons. Those are the reasons he's not going to leave. He's Russian basement in many ways. Or he might just be walking. He'll probably be able to walk around free in Russia. But yeah, we haven't really seen him that much and heard from him that much in the last few weeks. Quite frankly, excuse me, I just had a little moment there. But yeah, we haven't really seen him that much. What is he do? What is going on behind the scenes? All sorts of rumors popping up as well. Again, we can't really, you know, speculate on what it is why he's not been appearing as well. I know he's probably going to be holding meetings behind the scenes that they're not necessarily televised as well. But yeah, whenever he's seen the world stage, he's just, you know, everyone just dismisses him most of the time. He's not got much allies. He's only got the only allies that he does have are like some really China, Iran, a few countries,
Belarus.
potentially Serbia, Turkey, and they're not necessarily supporting. Well, Serbia's not actually really supporting them all, but they're not actually supplying arms to Ukraine in many ways. Turkey is trying to be a mediator between the two as well, but so it's not really abstained on this. But yeah, most of it is coming from authoritarian regimes. Most of it, not all of them are authoritarian regimes, but most of them are just kind of like, not support, like very supportive of Putin, whatever the circumstances is. So yeah, I think at the moment, let's look at the situation on the background. Bakhmut is still heavily contested. It's becoming a bit of a stalemate there. It seems to be a hot, very slow, gradual movement from Russia in terms of Bakhmut. They've sort of within the center of Bakhmut now, and it's a heavily destroyed area of Bakhmut. It's totally torn, literally rubber the place now. But nobody's actually like winning there at the moment, you have to say as well. It's all a bit of a standstill in the war as well. It just seems to be that Russia slowly making progress, but at the cost of making slow progress is that they're not really gaining any. They're losing so much ammunition, so much tanks are being destroyed, so they're taking a lot of casualties on the way whilst trying to take Bakhmut. So it's a bit of a problem their end as well, in terms of what's going on there. And I have to say, certainly as well, it's costly to it's costing them quite a lot as well in their actual battle with Russia, with Ukraine as well. So yeah, I mean, it's for something I expected to hear a lot more recently in the war in Ukraine. There's still a lot of battles on a daily basis, we know that, but right now it's all a bit of a stalemate. Most of it focused on what is happening in Bakhmut and what is happening really on the ground there, whether there has been gains or not, whether it's not. It's just again, like I said, it's a stalemate at the moment. There really isn't much happening at all at the moment there as well.
Well, all I can say is I'll just read you some of the other today's closing summary here. At least 5 people were killed and 17 people wounded on Friday by a Russian missile strike in the eastern Ukrainian city of Slavyansk, the regional governor said. Pablo Creano, sorry, pronunciation's not right there, but said 7 or more people remained under the rubble after the S-300 missiles damaged 5 park buildings, 5 private buildings, among others. Slavyansk is one of 2 eastern cities coveted by Russian forces in the currently bogged down in nearby Bakhmut. Do apologise if my pronunciations are not great. I'm not particularly very good with foreign pronunciations there as well. And there's also been news of a Russian Su-35 aircraft carrying out airstrikes on the settlement or Orhiv in the Zaporizhzhia region. The head of Ukrainian President's office said on Friday, post a telegram. Andriy Yermak said private houses and the building of the DYSSH were also damaged as well. I tell you what, not ideal if you're living in Ukraine. A pretty big stalemate there in the war at the moment. So we're going to carry on with that. We're going to quickly move on to one more thing before we do the big question. Zach, Joe Biden this week visiting Britain and having a very interesting face-off with a dog in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, he's having a little bit of an Irish visit this week. I'll just explain the reason for the Irish visit. This is to celebrate the anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, the 25th anniversary, actually. It's been celebrated across, UK for the last few weeks now, especially in the UK. But now it's President Biden's turn to come back to Ireland and Northern Ireland. Although his trip to Northern Ireland was pretty short as well. I think it was about 18 hours. Apparently 9 of it was sleeping, according to one journalist. Well, that was quite interesting. But yeah, he did speak in Belfast as well. He's beaten Dublin. He's also today's his last day day in Ireland, and then he's going back to the United States over the weekend as well. But yeah, Biden is some would say the most Irish American president that they've ever had to visit the country. He gave a speech to the Irish Parliament as well, both houses, which, by the way, was met with a lot of appraisal and applauseness in that as well. I should add. So there was a lot of positive sort of messaging in his speech and everything like that. He talked about his Irish roots, his Irish heritage, and all that sort of thing as well. It's just been a big comeback for him in Ireland. There was some controversy. Not all of them has been pleased about his visit. Certainly the DUP have not been swayed by some of his visiting the island, all that sort of thing as well. We've had like Sammy Wilson come out, he was criticising the president a little bit as well. And you may have seen Arlene Foster. We're coming up, probably I have to say, the quite most interesting quote of the week, saying that actually Biden hates Britain. It was quite a quote to come out. The quote to come out with, I have to say, especially, I must admit, I don't think he's, I don't think he's anti-British in many ways. I don't think that's the case. I think, he's obviously Catholic, and he might have sometimes been a little bit more on the Irish side than, sort of the Northern Irish side, should we say? But yeah, he admit that's he was upstaged by the Irish president dog, Michael D. Higgins, an absolute icon, I have to say, as well, in Ireland. In many ways, look at him. Off he goes in Dublin. It's lovely. It certainly felt like a second home for him in many ways as well. But yeah, he's been meeting loads of people. Taoiseach, the Irish president as well. He's brought his family with him as well. You might have seen his sister, I think it's Valerie Biden, and I think his other son Hunter, all in headlines for all sorts of very different reasons. And they're as well accomplishing him on the visit as well. So it's been, I have to say that I think Joe Biden will come out very happy with the visit this week. I mean, he would receive a lot of praise in Ireland itself. Less so on the sort of the Northern Irish side, but anyway, I think he will come out very happy this week. I think he loves it. He clearly loves it in Ireland. I almost sound like I was just talking in an Irish accent there, but yeah, he was very happy. He looked very pleased and everything like that, and I think he'll come out, job accomplished. There's certainly a lot of people that really wanted to see him and certainly got what he wanted.
Yeah, well, that's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden's brief little summary there of his state visit in the UK, in Ireland, of course. He'll be flying back out to the United States very, very soon, probably within the next few hours, to talk about more issues facing the American economy, inflation, crime, everything as well. So that's that. Moving on now to the big question. Now, I want to talk to you guys today in the big question. I'm going to ask a question here. Does Alistair Stewart deserve recognition for his time in broadcasting? Now, I have to say this here, guys. Alistair Stewart, is one of Britain's most beloved journalists. He has presented news for many years. In fact, I can remember he started in the 1970s on British television, been the face of British media for a long time. Of course, he's recently retired from presenting on UK TV and national news after finishing a couple of years with GB News as well. He also used to work on ITV. In fact, let's go over Alistair Stewart whilst we're here, guys, because this man is an icon for, in general, UK news networks. He was born in 1952. It does say he's the current presenter of GB News. He's now left the station. He started on ITV between 1980 to 1992, and then 2003 to 2022. He also worked with LIN as well. Just absolutely an icon. Provided coverage of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster as well. He was a reporter on ITN's Channel 4 News. Also presented ITV News at 5:45. He moved to the ITV News 10 Bulletin. He also hosted as well, funnily enough, he actually hosted the first ever UK political leaders debate between prime ministerial candidates David Cameron and Nick Clegg, and also the incumbent Gordon Brown in 2010 as well. First ever debate that he held was actually hosted by Alistair Stewart, funnily enough, on ITV News. Since then, he's also covered the Iraq War. He's also covered the 2016 European United Kingdom meeting as well. So he's spoken about the European Union membership referendum. He's also covered as well the quite upsetting news, which included the Queen Elizabeth II's passing last year. Now, Zach, I've got a question for you here. Do you think Alistair Stewart deserves recognition for his time in broadcasting?
Yeah, I certainly do. I definitely do on that one. I think he was one of the few credible journalists, if we should say, that was sort of like in mainstream news that sort of went to GB News in a way. And I don't think he affected his reputation too much, quite frankly, despite that. But yeah, he's been an absolute icon in the journalism industry as well. Most of it has been spent with ITV News. That's where he's been main home has been for many, many years. He started, as just a news reader sometimes, but then he covered like the big events, such as like the first ever general election debate between the party leaders. That was history making from ITV and from his part as well. He certainly covered so much in his career. So he started out in the south of England, Southern Television, 1970s. He was reported industrial correspondent. It was even a documentary as well. He joined it in 1980s, industrial correspondent ITN as well. That was sort of like the brand of ITV. And then he was a presenter on Channel 4 News at one point as well. And he also provided live coverage of the Space Shuttle Challenge disaster and the detail of the tragedy that, as well. And then 2 Minutes Flat, he's become a Squitch Now special program. And then, that's where he started handling all the breaking news and that sort of thing as well. He also was involved, obviously, in the budget. Ninth year of Stewart's involvement in presentation, the annual event for ITV. It was the fifth year and anchoring the programme. Who retired Alistair Bunnett, who retired in 1991 as well, obviously. That he covered that for quite a long period as well. And then from 1993 to 2009, he co-hosted, presented London Tonight, which is like ITV's London regional programme. So he was involved with a lot of local journalism, a lot of national journalism as well, in many ways. And it was also involved in BBC Radio 5 Live as well. Yeah, he did so much, like the Iraq War as well. He was a fan. He won Celebrity Mastermind as well. He's just so much stuff that he did. He also presented Unbelievable Moments Caught on Camera. As well, I believe at one point he did actually present something like that, and then I think he got taken off briefly and then changed the format of it because I think he got disqualified from driving himself, which is quite an irony, all that. Well, he didn't do his. I would imagine that wouldn't done him good, anyways, as well. But yeah, he's hosted so much, and obviously the reason why he sort of left ITV News at the end of the period is he got sort of like pulled over through social media tweets that were probably a little mean as well.
Wasn't there one about William Shakespeare, from what I remember as well?
It might have been about that. I can't remember why he got. Can't remember why he got necessarily what tweets got him done at ITV. But yeah, he didn't leave on necessarily the greatest terms with them. But obviously, he was still really, really recognised, and I think there was a lot of shock when he left. As well, he took a bit of time off social media and all that sort of thing, and then GB News came along as well. He was a good presenter. Obviously, he was telling his views a little bit more, but nevertheless, he was on the air when he announced the Queen's death as well in September 22. This person, Alistair Stewart, certainly has a lot of recognition within the journalism world. He's going to still pop up now and then on GB News. I imagine he'll probably be part of the coronation coverage, which is not long now, by the way. I think about 3 or so weeks or something like that. the coronation, which is getting closer and closer as it happens. But yeah, he has been one of the most recognisable journalistic features around in the journalism industry. And yeah, I have to say, does he deserve recognition? Absolutely, for all that time and service he does, for everything he's given to journalism and the news industry in total.
Yeah, I mean, what an icon he is. I mean, he's been such a successful journalist, and whether you agree with his views, whether you don't agree with his views, it shows you though that he was a journalist that made news great. He made news what it was. He paved the way for British broadcasting this time as well. The fact that he hosted the first ever, as I said earlier, the first ever political leaders debate between basically like front-running candidates to become a prime minister in 2010, one of the biggest elections in the UK's history. Wow, I mean, that's a huge achievement. Obviously, we had one for a Conservative Party leadership race last year, which got pretty interesting. So, yeah, will there be another general? Well, there will be another general election soon, so there'll be another debate on that one. But
next year,
I'm now going to play for you a short little montage of Alistair Stewart's career in broadcasting, which included some pretty high moments. Of course, Alistair Stewart may be remembered, of course, with the coverage of the fall of the Berlin Wall as well in the late 1980s as well. East Germany and West Germany dividing, of course, as well. But this is a little montage here, guys, of Alistair Stewart's career in journalism, including news broadcasting. Have a listen to this. This was created after his time at GB News. Have a listen to this.
And finally, the 10pence in your pocket is getting smaller. The Bank of England, which will save millions in production costs, claim it's what the public wants. Not everyone thinks it's a change for the better, to coin a phrase.
Good evening and welcome to the first election debate. Over the past 50 years, there have been numerous attempts to get the leaders of the three biggest political parties to debate with each other during an election. Tonight, history in the making. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Alistair Stewart and I will be with you for the next 3 hours. Joining me are old friends and new, but mostly, I hope, you. 25 minutes to 7. Buckingham Palace has indeed confirmed in the last few moments that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has died.
And that's news at 10. From Carol and from me, a very good night to you.
The end of an historic moment in television and political history. A very good night to you. Until then, a very good afternoon to you, and indeed, have a lovely week. Bye-bye for now.
There we go, guys. That was Alistair Stewart's highlights there in journalism. I have to say as well, when you hear the news of announcing particularly Queen Elizabeth II's death as well last year, having to have the script out in front of you, reading the notes off, I bet news like that, Zach, for that must have been very challenging. I mean, even Stewart must have had the same when Diana's death came along as well.
I mean, covering a Queen's death, or a royal death in any time is going to be very challenging. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to be really prepared because once a royal death comes along, you're going to be on the news for a long time. You've got to have so much in front of you to get to keep the audience informed and keep them, wanting to stay with you throughout the period. He was a master of that. He's handled so many breaking news stories that he can master whatever he could do. The Queen's health was one of them. I mean, we sort of like a journalist had time to prepare for what was going to happen to the Queen, in some way, one way or another. But oh my goodness me, it really was quite something. When obviously, he had to announce that. Obviously, the death of Queen Elizabeth as well back in September, but he handled it like a pro, like everyone else in the news industry. They all handled it like a pro. They managed to do it in a really audience-friendly manner, a very serious manner, and getting all the scripts ready and all the sort of thing to sort of deliver the news isn't always that simple. It's once you something like that, a real death, and you're the first thing you got to announce that, it's quite a serious moment for you and everyone else who wants to deliver that news. And like he said, he was, for those clips that you just played, he was excellent and just really, really professional throughout that as well. And yes, he can master it. and that was a feature event. He could absolutely master it.
I have to say, he's probably one of the greatest ever journalists to come out of this country. We can all say, Alistair Stewart, we wish you a happy retirement. And of course, he will still be covering stuff on GB News. He'll still be continuing presenting as a contributor for now. Obviously, we have the King's coronation next month. It's a big day for this country, a big day for this nation. So I really hope everyone looks back on Stewart's legacy as one of the greatest journalists to come out of this country. But moving on now from journalism, straight to sports news now. Before we go on and do the main news tonight, I would like to bring you some breaking news that came out just yesterday. Unfortunately, if you're a motorsport fan, we unfortunately lost a World Rally Championship driver yesterday. Of course, the World Rally Championship, if you don't know that to all the listeners, it's a motorsport event that takes place across different countries with racing drivers racing rally cars, or should I say rally cars built by manufacturers like Ford, Hyundai, Audi, all that sort of stuff on different types of terrains, different types of surfaces such as road, tarmac, public roads, gravel, snow, mud, everything. Unfortunately, the other day during a test session for the Croatian Rally, the Croatia round of the World Rally Championship, Craig Bren from Ireland suffered a pretty nasty crash after his Hyundai i20 rally car flipped over during a test run ahead of the Croatia Rally. His co-driver, James Fulton, was unharmed. Unfortunately, though, Craig Bren did succumb to his injuries, unfortunately died just the other day. I mean, Zach, what's your thoughts on this pretty heartbreaking news story from the World Rally Championship?
Yeah, I have to say, very, very sad event that happened yesterday. Charlie, no doubt about it. It was very, very sad. And very shocking in many ways. Craig Breen was such a wonderful lad. He was a great human. And he was very talented. You can tell with his previous rally experience. He worked his way up the ladder really hard. He put so much effort in. He started from the junior ranks. If I remember him quite well, and if my only memory sort of memory was correct, I first remembered him, and I could be wrong. I first remembered him from the British Rally Championship. And I remember because as a young child, and I have to say, I was sort of like, I used to buy the season review discs when I was sort of a little bit younger. And I remember, I think it was the 2010, 2011 ones that I started buying for the British Rally Championship. And there was a name that I recognised that was dominating all the time. And that was Craig. I think that was the one I was talking about. I think. I may be wrong, but I think that was Craig Breen. And he was a great figure through that. He was amazing. He was a talented driver. And he worked so hard. You know, he was only born out in, I think it was 1990 or something like that.
Yeah.
Just so he was not that old. He's still, although his name lives quite in my mind a little bit, he's still quite a very fresh talent. And, you know, the fact that he worked his way up to Hyundai tells you so much effort that he's had to put in and so much delay to, you know, that he's worked his way up. He's proved his talent. He's just such a great individual. And, yeah, I'm bemused. I'm peculiar to want to know why the driver died of it, but the co-driver was so unharmed. The impact, he must have, in many ways, if he had an accident, it must have hit the driver's side so hard that it's obviously detrimental impact. Is that the car there that was?
Yeah, that we can confirm. That picture was taken after the crash happened during the testing for the Rally of Croatia round of the World Rally Championship.
So it must have hit the driver's side then, that crash particularly, because I'm guessing the side is so bent in that he hit it. He must have hit something really hard and steel that there's no like safety measure on that. There's no safety protection on that barrier that sort of hits it on the side, and he must have gone like driver's sideways for him to be severely affected in that. But yeah, that is a horrible way to go out like that, and that is an unexpected way. And my thoughts, obviously, with Craig, his friends, the co-driver, and everyone else who's known Craig for so long, a life that's just been taken too long and too soon. And he'll be very much missed. And all I'm going to say is rest in peace, friend. And obviously, may your memories be a blessing.
No, it's just it's a gutting. It's a horrible feeling. You can't underestimate the dangers posed by the World Rally Championship, posed in general by any of it, because there's drivers like Sébastien Ogier, Sébastien Loeb, Chris Meek, who have all driven in these championships as well, who have showed the world. Ken Block, especially, another rally driver who we lost just last year, only lost Ken Block a few months ago for a snowmobile crash. We've lost two huge rally stars over the last few months. Craig is probably Ken Block was a bigger loss because obviously he was a rally superstar back in his day. But Craig Brenn is an unsung hero. He was a youth champion. He won the Rally Wales GB title, I think, back in 2011. He had so much success growing up through the sport as a young fella, a young driver. But for something like this to happen, it's just tragedy. I'm thoughts with all those who've known. My thoughts with Craig and my thoughts with his family right now. It must be a very, very challenging time for them, losing their beloved friend. All I can say is rest in peace, Craig Brenn. We really, really do miss you. Moving on now to another bit of motorsport news now. Formula One, of course, is off until Baku. So we're not really going to talk about Formula One. We're going to cover the NASCAR action now. I haven't watched again. I've not been catching up with racing very much on NASCAR, but I can tell you some news that has been announced because I have read up about this. Chase Elliott will be returning for the next race, which will be the next NASCAR meeting. I think that's in Martinsville.
Martinsville, correct.
I'm pretty sure. That has now been confirmed that Elliott will be back in the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro, which is the car owned by Hendricks Motorsport. Actually, yes, I can confirm to you. I did actually read up about this. The Food City Dirt Race was the other week. Now, I have actually read up about this. I think I did actually watch the highlights, pretty sure. Christopher Bell won the race, ahead of Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon in 3rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 4th, Chase Briscoe 5th, Justin Haley 6th, Martin Truex Jr. 7th, Todd Gilliland 8th, Kevin Harvick 9th, and Ty Gibbs completing top 10. Zach, what did you make this pretty interesting race at Bristol for the first time this year on the dirt?
Yeah, I have to say, obviously, it was one of the first night race of the season as well, and it's a dirt race, so it's obviously slippy and slidey. There was a few surprises on the way, I have to say, in terms of spins and everything like that as well. Christopher Bell was the one that managed to capitalize on it as well. I have to say, I don't know if it was you, but I think the track was a tad wet as well, if I remember quite rightly, because there was a bit of rain the other day, and it's obviously soaked up the track a little bit. I know sort of NASCAR drivers, sort of the cars going over it will make it a little bit more like muddy and everything like that, but make it a little bit spread out and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it wasn't the dry circuit, so it was obviously quite slippy. Like I said, Christopher Bell won that one pretty handily as well. It pretty much got ahead of the field. Tyler Reddick was 2nd, Austin Dillon in 3rd position, Ricky Stenhouse 4th, Chase Briscoe, as you said, was 5th, Justin Haley was 6th, Truex 7th, Gilliland 8th, Harvick 9th, and Ty Gibbs was 10th. Now, like you said, Charlie, the good news is in terms of number 9, Chase Elliott is returning this weekend. He injured himself kind of a little bit ago, but now he's been declared fit to race and will be in that number 9 car this weekend. It's good to see him back, I have to say as well. He has also been given a waiver Now, what that is, the waiver is for so that if he wins a race, as long as he gets within the top 30, he will then be allowed to compete in the playoffs. Basically, he had been given a waiver, so if he wins a race, he will qualify for the playoffs. So I think that the rule where you don't have to stay in the top 30 will not apply to him, because he's obviously a legitimate competitor, and he's obviously, unfortunately, had an injury which obviously could have prevented him from winning a race and all that sort of thing as well. So he has been given a waiver to stay in the playoffs if he wins as well. Now, another story I want to cover as well, if that's okay, Charlie. Cody Ware. You may have seen some quite spectacular stories over the weekend as well. NASCAR has suspended him as well because he's been suspended indefinitely because he's had a few felony charges against him on assault as well, which is not good at all. Now, obviously, he's not guilty yet. He'll have to go through a trial. Have to go through anything if he pleads not guilty. But yeah, there was a few felonies in there as well, which obviously brought the attention to NASCAR. He got arrested as well, and yeah, he's been indefinitely suspended this week for a period now until he's been found guilty or not guilty, basically. So yeah, quite an idiotic thing for Cody Ware to go around assaulting and committing felonies. That's an awful decision by Cody Ware. So he's out for now until this gets sorted. But like I said, NASCAR is racing at Martinsville this weekend as well. It's going to be the 400-mile race. It's on a short track. We've gone from one short track to another short track as well. This time in the daytime, NASCAR Xfinity and Craftsman Truck Series are also racing at Martinsville this weekend. They are racing tonight at sort of 12:30 a.m. in the morning, UK time, 7:30 around in America. Xfinity Series is tomorrow at Saturday at also 7:30 US time, 12:30 UK time. And the Cup Series as well, they are also racing the 400-mile race as well. I think for that one, Noco 400, that will be at 3 p.m. American time, 8 p.m. UK time as well. So sort of more suitable hours for UK viewers as well. And then next weekend as well will be the turn of Talladega after this weekend. It is one of those big super speedway tracks where anything can happen. The big one is commonly happens. You'll see 3 wide, 4 wide at times potentially as well, but it's going to get potentially messy and potentially quite interesting. The cars are going to be fast. There's going to be a lot of passes. It'll be interesting as well. But this weekend we're going to be focusing on Martinsville as well, and the Truck Series soon. I believe they're going to get qualifying is still going on the Truck Series as well, so I can't get up a grid for that as well. But yeah, a lot of action coming up this weekend for NASCAR. All 3 series in action.
Yeah, and we've got plenty of other motorsport news. We'll be staying tuned to the World Cup, keeping you updated with all the rounds coming from the British Touring Car Championship, which will be starting very soon. They've had their season launched the other day, I think today at Donington, Brands Hatch, and that season will begin very, very soon in the coming weeks at Donington Park, which I'll be very excited for. Now it's time for the news that everyone's been waiting for, which is, of course, the football, footy action. Of course, Premier League fixtures will be on tomorrow. We will go through last Sunday's results because there was a couple of last Sunday's results whilst we were here. So the matches last week on the Sunday, we had a couple of Sunday fixtures. We can confirm to you that on the Sundays, Crystal Palace won 5-1 against Leeds, and Arsenal Liverpool drew 2-2. Now, this weekend's matches, plenty of them. Aston Villa and Newcastle will play each other. Southampton, Crystal Palace, Everton and Fulham, Tottenham, Bournemouth, Wolves, Brentford, Chelsea and Brighton are all the 3 o'clocks. The Aston Villa Newcastle is at half 12. Then we have tomorrow at 5:30, the late 5:30 kickoff. Man City play a struggling Leicester City, who are in the relegation zone at the moment. West Ham will be playing Arsenal on Sunday. Nottingham Forest play Manchester United at 4:30 on Sunday. And then Leeds and Liverpool will be the Monday night football at 8 o'clock. And also there was Champions League action this week as well, which saw Real Madrid beating Chelsea 2-0 and also Manchester City thrashing Bayern Munich 3-0. Wow, a big win for Pep Guardiola's side. Zach, what did you take away from this week's results in football?
Yeah, let's start off obviously with you said weekend matches as well. You've gone over them quite well as well. I want to reflect on some of the matches that happened on European action this week as well. As I said, on the Tuesday of City and Bayern Munich. It was like, I think this was Pep's first visit to Bayern Munich since he sort of left the managerial role there as well and went to City. 3-0 victory for Man City. Massive result as well. And there was stuff happening after the match as well. Leroy Sané and Sadio Mane getting into a punching match in the dressing room as well. Quite interesting enough. 3-0 victory for Man City. They were celebrating on the pitch. Outside in the dressing rooms for Bayern Munich, there was fists being thrown. Sadio Mane, Leroy Sané as well. One of the players got suspended and for this weekend and given a fine as well for the altercation. But yeah, it was your typical goal scorers for Man City on the Tuesday. Erling Haaland, Bernardo's as well. Absolutely awesome. Just brilliant. It was a fascinating match. The overall Bayern crumbled. They were probably, you expected to sort of be equal with Man City, but no, they weren't. They were absolutely awful. On the Wednesday as well, Real Madrid and Chelsea 2-0 for Real Madrid. They were just too easy for them. Frank Lampard's side also went down to 10 men as well. Ben Chilwell getting the red card. So he is missing the next match as well on that front. And then on the Thursday, there was two matches on the Thursday as well in the Europa Conference League and the Europa League. Let's start with the Conference League. Ghent and West Ham United. It was a 1-1 draw. West Ham have gone unbeaten in the Europa Conference League this season. Continues that, but not what. This is their failed to get past Ghent after sort of scoring in the second half. Ghent did. Now it'll be back at home, so West Ham will probably be the favourite second leg next week. But it's not necessarily going to be easy next time around with Ghent, who were very strong after saying the second half, completely all over West Ham. That one, and then the match that was very fascinating yesterday as well. Manchester United and Seville. It started out as looked like it was going to be a Man City United walkaway, a 2-0 at the 80th minute, and then Seville made it 2-2 with it just before the end as well. Plenty of drama, injuries. Harry Maguire is missing the next match. Now, Martinez as well suffered an injury as well. And that means that that's a crucial element for the Manchester United team. He's missing the rest of the season now thanks to an injury. But there'll be no Harry Maguire. There's no Rashford for them as well. Both, I think it's no Vinicius as well. Several players injured during the match. That's going to be crucial when they head off away next week to Seville. As well, but yeah, lots of action going on in the European football. As you said, the Premier League is this weekend, and obviously key fixtures with Arsenal for West Ham, London derby. I think it's going to be the big match of the day. London derby, implications for both ends of the table. Arsenal only got away with a draw last week against Liverpool. They need to be on it against West Ham, who was sort of up and down in form, but camp outs were needed to be. City taking on Leicester, who appointed Dean Smith as their interim manager until the end of the season. Leicester City really need to get this result. Can they do a surprising blow against Man City? Probably unlikely, but who knows? and Aston Villa, Newcastle is a matter for top four there as well. It's going to be very interesting to see as well. Lots of going on as well this weekend in the Premier League.
Yeah, just looking at the table there, wow, it's all very interesting. Who will get European football this season? That will be remaining big. We also know who will be fighting as well to keep themselves safe from relegation. It's going to be very interesting. The table's all there, guys, for you to view. Now, that is all the sports news this week. Here on the Charlie Tower Show, we can just confirm now that we will get the Premier League table up for you now, which confirms Arsenal currently top on 73 points. Man City are second on 67. Newcastle above Manchester United there on 56 because they have a higher goal difference as well. And then in the bottom three, Nottingham Forest on 27, all just above Everton are higher on goal difference. Leicester are 19th on 25, 23 points bottom there. Southampton in 20th. Now that is all your sports news there. Now it's time for Conversation Street. Yes. Now, Conversation Street this week we'll be talking about a musical artist. Now, does anyone know an artist called Rag and Bone Man? Who I'm going to be talking about this week. Now, Rag and Bone Man is a singer that I know quite a bit about. I know a couple of his songs because I've listened to them. I listened to one when I was actually out once. Of course, Rag and Bone Man is actually quite an interesting UK singer. He's a modern artist. You might know the guy's name here. I can confirm to you it's Rory Charles Graham. He's an English singer-songwriter. He's known for his deep baritone voice. And of course, also known as his stage name, Rag and Bone Man. He first released his hit single Human in 2016 for his debut album of the same name in 2017, called the fastest-selling debut album for a male artist for the decade. He's since received 4 platinum certification. At 2017 Brit Awards, he was announced British Breakthrough Act and received Critics' Choice Award, and went on to receive a further Brit Award for Best British Single Track 2018. He's also, following the album, he's performed at headline at festivals, different genres for various artists, including Bugsy Malone, Trap Run, Logic with song Broken People, the Netflix film Bright, and also with Netflix as well. Netflix film Bright, and Calvin Harris with the Brit Award nominated, and Ivan Novello award-winning single Giant as well. He also released in 2021 All You Ever Wanted, the lead singer from his second studio album, Life by Misadventure. And then he collaborated with Pink for the second single of the album, Anywhere, Anyway From Here. So he has absolutely had a huge... He might not have released much songs at the moment, but in terms of his musical career, he's on the rise, as you can say. I mean, Zach, what do you take away from Rag and Bone Man's career in music so far?
Yeah, I think he just came out of nowhere, quite frankly. I think he created... I think what made the public stick and sort of like get into his music was the fact that he made quite sort of dramatic but sort of very trendy music that was, was catchy and clicked as well. And I think, he's a big guy, but he's proper good and everything like that. And he's got so much musical talent. So he's sort of like, goes on the dramaticness a little bit, and then he gets quite emotional as well. So he's sort of like he's got a booming voice. He's a big beast. Not that fat, but he's a big guy, shall we say. And he's very good. Like, he sort of released a few EPs, and sort of like music that you never heard of before, like a few years back before his big singles sort of came along. And then Human came out, and it sort of, it didn't come out. It didn't click for a while. No one really came onto it for a little bit. And then I don't know why it clicked, but everyone started. I think it was it might have been an advert somewhere that sort of clicked it with the public. And once everyone knew what it was, then it went off. And he was very successful from there onwards. And then we released a few singles that was quite successful in many ways as well. And obviously he's gone through one album. He's been through a second album. And you know what? Not for an artist that really, started out a bit unknown, he's done well, and he's done quite successfully. I think he should be pleased with that. In many ways, he's actually 38, and now if you think about it, for an artist that rises to top quite a lot, he's quite old for he's not exactly a young gun. As well, he's known. He calls himself Ragabami. He's known as Rory Graham. As well, he was born in Uckfield, East Sussex, which, by the way, is one of the sort of like a good, really nice place, I should say, because I've sort of been there. As well, and then he obviously came out with his sort of EPs, Wolf and Disfigured. As well, that was sort of like an early release for him in many ways, and then obviously his debut and self-titled album. And then obviously, yeah, it's just good artist. He's been got a great voice, and that's what makes Karate click. And the only thing I wish to mention as well, he once appeared in EastEnders. And funny enough, he made a cameo. I think it was on the it was in the street Wolford. I think it was Wolford Avenue or something like that. And then he made a character appearance in the Queen Vic. And then in the street as well. So yeah, he had one bit of acting career behind him as well. If you want to put it that way, but most of it's been in music, and he's been sensational. Just listening to him as well, it's been great, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's Rag and Bowman for you. Honestly, Rory, Charles Graham, there, an artist who is going to be, I think, certainly on the rise for the moment. Obviously, Giant and Human are probably the two biggest songs I remember from him. But yeah, certainly very interesting indeed. But we're going to stay on Conversation Street now, back onto the world of supermarkets and online deliveries now becoming very, very popular. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about online deliveries. Now, as you guys know, I do pick shopping. I do work for Tesco, and I do the shopping in that to help people's deliveries out. But I just want to say quickly, okay, on this show. Now, what is the best one? Now, there's so many ways in which you can get your supermarket groceries delivered to. Online deliveries are going to become the new popular. Now, obviously, you get a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter or an Iveco electric vans deliver your shopping as well. Now, it's also been announced that online shoppers have shifted priorities away from fast deliveries, which include, particularly in America, people driving on the back of little bikes to deliver parcels. I mean, it's very, very interesting, to say the least, with the way that like Ocado Zoom is becoming very popular in this country, particularly, say, London, stuff like that. But we are seeing changes to the way supermarkets deliver their shopping. Zach, what do you make to this trend happening? And do you think companies like Tesco, Asda and Ocado should follow suit with this?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, actually. Someone sort of cycling around to deliver your shopping. I mean, it's like, in some ways, like, you might think it's like, you've obviously, I think you've seen others like doing this as well, which is quite interesting as well. And I think it's a good trend as well. I think it's good because it makes I suppose it's quite cheap in many ways, getting a bike out rather than getting a massive van. I mean, yeah, there's less space in some ways. You can obviously use only for small shoppings as well, but they're very useful in sort of making the customer experience sort of good. And it also saves a lot of travel as well, because like for sometimes when you go to some shops, you have to drive there to get your delivery rather than a van coming to your house or something like that. But then again, you got a bike, that's click and collect. This time there's all this home delivery, and all you do is start and get on the bike, and they deliver it to your door. Obviously pay it all beforehand, and yeah, it all gets delivered to you. And I think it's a good trend. I think it's an efficient trend. It's a environmentally safe way rather than using all those vans sometimes as well. So it's something that we're seeing as well, and I think should continue to be trending the right way as well. So yeah, I think it's a good idea personally. We should at least have a range of options, like the bikes. Obviously, the vans probably will be needed for big deliveries and all that sort of thing. But yeah, if it's small deliveries, then the bikes and the delivery bikes are a good idea.
Yeah, it's certainly very interesting. Obviously, where I work as well, Tesco. There's a lot of where I work as well with Tesco, a company that supplies so many deliveries to many customers' houses, many customers across this country. Probably about half of them will use Tesco, maybe more than half of the country will use Tesco. It's very, very important to really understand the importance of supermarkets delivering your shopping. During the pandemic, we saw a big boom in this. So it's become very popular now. Supermarkets like Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, Waitrose delivering shopping to customers' houses, especially the elderly and the vulnerable during the pandemic. I think, Zach, as well, like the trend of supermarket deliveries is really expanding. I mean, COVID-19, particularly vulnerable and elderly people having to shield during that first lockdown. I bet supermarket delivery drivers were actually the unsung heroes in helping these people out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have to remember the part as well that these sort of bikes as well, delivery drivers are also good ways. They're safe ways as well to get delivery for elderly people who are shielded. This sort of like the COVID helped transition that a bit faster in many ways, to allow that sort of feature to happen. So it was important that would be done, obviously, to help the elderly, to help the poor, those who couldn't physically get out of the house and everything like that, and who couldn't be around vulnerable people. It's a massive help and massive figure in many ways. So yeah, I mean, like I said before, it's good that this sort of thing started trending and everything like that, and is continued after the pandemic. Obviously, some things get faster than others, but like this one, I think it certainly provided the case for delivery drivers, whether it's via the vans or just via bikes and everything like that, to do orders via that way.
We're starting to see a lot of Mercedes Sprinters and Iveco vans going electric. That could be a new way forward. We don't know. We'll let you guys know down in the comments about that. Please comment down below, guys, what you make. Should supermarket deliveries be done quicker? Should you expect? Do you think there should be more innovative ways to deliver? Should be used bikes? Should vans be updated to electric? Please comment down below and see what you think to that as well. Moving on now to press preview. This is the final segment of the show before we wrap this up tonight. A look at all the latest newspaper headlines for you right now. Here we go. It's now been confirmed that in the Telegraph, the nurses target A&E in the most extreme strike yet. The Daily Telegraph also follows that headline, with the Times also following the same story. In the Daily Mail, also going with strikes as well. The Daily Star goes, well, obviously, Happy Grand National Day to everyone out there who's been watching it. Of course, if that's coming up very soon. The French Nicar weather, less storm warning. They swoop in and give names like Noah. I think that's to do with the big rain, heavy rain or something that's coming in. The Mirror goes, coronation crackdown, cops target terror groups, and anarchist and anti-royalist threats to the ceremony. Daily Express goes, despite all, the king is proud of Harry. Okay. Financial Times weekend goes, Elon Musk to launch AI startup to rival ChatGPT. Comes as tech billionaire recruits engineers, plans to build a large language model as well. And also Europe's ambitious 8-year space mission takes off as well. And the I weekend goes for nurses hit strike as cancer, another pay rejected. The Independent goes for just how much can the NHS patients take. And the Guardian also goes, nurses could be on strike until Christmas. I mean, all of this dominated by nursing strikes pretty much. Zach, what do you make to today's papers? Of tomorrow's papers? Oh, we've had a bit of a technical glitch there. Unfortunately, my friend Zach has had a technical glitch. We will be back with you very shortly. I've just got to add him on there. Here we go. We've got Zach back on now.
Hello. Sorry, I just had a little audio cut out there briefly as well. Sorry about that. Yeah, going back to the papers, let me just review each one. Hopefully, I think I had a video call come through, so my thing decided to mute out. Obviously, I'm on a phone this evening rather than my computer, which is sort of played up a little bit. But yeah, let's go through the Telegraph first of all. They're talking about the obviously, and to be fair, I'll do the Times as well. They've been talking about the A&E strike, the strikes and the nurses as well. In many ways, the Telegraph, nurses target A&E most extreme strike yet. As well, this is obviously talking about the fact that the Royal College of Nursing decided to strike, rejecting the members rejecting the revised pay offer from the government as well. Nurses who break on the most extreme strike yet, despite hundreds of thousands of health workers backing the government's pay offer. Their RCO announced plans to target A&E departments, cancer units, and intensive care facilities over the May Day bank holiday weekend. Whew, oh dear. The fact as well is it's a bank holiday weekend, so it obviously doesn't help. Well, this is the weekend where everyone sort of goes out, gets busy and everything like that, and it's obviously comes a little bit of stress in the hospitals as well. Tory MPs to the moves were reckless, whilst fellow unions pointed out how the narrow RCM vote was. Jeremy Hunt warned the strikes make it harder to bring waiting lists down. It's very challenging in the NHS. If you add the pressure of strike, it makes it very difficult to bring down waiting times. I mean, this is going to be another difficult run and balance as well. I mean, the government obviously have a role in this. I mean, the unions have a role in this. There is simply to the unions, certainly the nurses on this one, the people that work in healthcare and everything like that, in terms of striking healthcare workers on this. So the government may not get as big a boost as this, but they may find some way through over these divisions as well in the RCN. And it involves 130 NHS organisations as well. But it could obviously cover more in the future potentially as well. But they're going to go on strike on the 28th, the 30th to 2nd of May for 2 days. And that's going to cover the May bank holiday weekend as well. Nurses are preparing a campaign for strikes through the winter, according to the Times as well. Government pay deal, they've rejected that as well. 54.46 was the figure of the RCN as well, and this is such a tight figure on the Times stickers as well. But yeah, it could go on. This now could go on for months, which is unfortunate. But I still, like I said as well, Charlie, I still think there's room for there to be, a little tad more negotiations as well. So there could be time. I still think a little slight up on pay. Then I think that we may find a breakthrough on the pay deal and all that sort of thing as well. The RCM accepted the current offer, so that's something like that. Daily Mail goes for fear of chaos with doctors and nurses strike together as nursing union dramatically rejects NHS pay offer as well. That's obviously reference to what's happened. The NHS is bracing summer mayhem after nurses last night rejected a pay deal, raising fears they could coordinate future strikes with junior doctors. That could be quite interesting as well, because the RCN as well, and obviously the junior doctors unions as well, require nursing as well. Start from 8 p.m. as well, and it include cancer wars as well. But we've had these coordinated strikes over the winter as well, and obviously a summer one is on the card now with actual nurses, doctors and nurses and juniors as well could strike together. So that would cause complete mayhem in the NHS if that happens as well. So you might get to the point where you feel winter pressures in the summer as well. The Daily Star goes for Leicester warning. They swoop in to give alert names like Noah. The weather is turning nasty as after French forecasters sneaked in and officially named the latest storm Noah before our lot could call it something good like Fred or Liz. I remember the last storm the last storm was called Liz, actually, and then it caused a bit of a crashing effect on the UK. That only happened for about 46 days, but I remember it had a significant impact on the UK as well. Make it what I thought with that reference as well. It's getting a bit windy, isn't it? It's been a bit miserable in terms of the weather recently as well. Not been quite nice.
It's raining just now as well. Literally, you can hear the rain as we're on air tonight. Outside my window.
Yeah, I saw raining where I am as well. It's quite interesting as well. Daily Express, despite it all, the King is proud of Harry. Now, this is obviously reference to the fact that we found out this week that that Prince Harry Harry is going to attend the coronation of King Charles, which is good. I have to say, I have credit to him. He's slagged off the Charles a little bit and the royal family over, but he's put it aside to be at the coronation as well. Meghan Markle is not going. She is going to stay with the kids in California. Make that what she will. But anyways, the king has spoken of his immense pride in both his sons after it's finally confirmed that Harry will attend as well. Charles has sort of forgiven all what Harry has said over the last few months with everything from that book releases to the interviews and that sort of thing as well. But I suspect Charles will be pleased to see his grandson anyway, despite what's going on. I think that's the main thing about it as well. And I think it's good that he's attending. I mean, you know, he'll probably be hated for even coming. He'll probably be hated for even not going. He couldn't win either way. But yeah, it's good to see him going as well. The Mirror, coronation crackdown, cops target terror groups and anarchists and anti-royalists are threat to ceremony. The biggest security operation in the generation will be mounted at the coronation amid fears of attacks. Police say terrorists, eco-warriors and anarchists could strike. Interesting enough as well. Terrorists, I mean, who would want to terrorise the bloody, you know, coronation? It's quite shameful, really, to be fair. There'll obviously be the anti-royalists. I'm not surprised there'll probably be some that probably want to protest as well. But yeah, they're going to ruin the weekend if they do that sort of thing as well. Coronation crackdown as well. Watch out, by the way, it's the Grand National tomorrow. Watch out for potential animal warriors there as well. There's a big field. I'm still not decided who I'm going to pick on my horse yet. But watch out for animal groups like Animal Rebellion that could protest and try to take over the whole event as well, because of their hatred against horse racing and the Grand National. It's funny enough, it's always the Grand National that gets targeted. It's not any other horse day that gets targeted. They always seem to be fine the rest of the other 364 days, so that horse racing is running. But when it comes to Grand National, no, obviously there's a lot of injuries happen there, understandably so. But nevertheless, it always seems to be the Grand National only that they seem to come out of their shell and, you know, rah, 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 it should be abolished, la, la, la. Not all the rest of the jump racing. They seem to be very quiet. Wonder why. They probably would waste their effort otherwise. The Eye Weekend. Nurses strike hit cancer care and A&E as Sunak payoff rejected. May bank holiday walkout is major blow for Rishi Sunak run up to local elections as union leaders demand historic wages increase, but sources said there's little chance of a new deal. I mean, just put it up by 1% would at least, I think, do the deal. I've said that. I've said this so many times throughout as well. Woman faces 2-year wait for NHS treatment. That's menopause as well. This is included in the Eye Weekend as well. But yeah. Financial Times go for must to launch AI startup to rival ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT has sort of been this big thing that's been going on over the last few months, actually. I've never really used it myself, but AI has been so good recently. I actually at work use a lot of AI stuff, to be fair. The stuff that we used to do CVs and everything like that, AI has been using that as well. There's AI on our designs. There is so much AI and technology that it's been embraced, that otherwise if we don't, we sort of fall behind and everything like that. So the fact that Musk is getting the AI sort of scene as well is probably not surprising. I mean, what effort he's going to do, I don't know. It'll probably come, whether it will form part of Twitter, who knows. But yeah, wow, the AI race is on, I think, as well, and we've got 2 more to do as well. The Guardian goes for nursing strikes could go on until Christmas. That's the front there. Almost all clinics break law of robotics as well. 9 in 10 beauty clinics are breaking laws by advertising Botox. New research through prompting fresh concern that Britain's booming cosmetic treatment industry is like the Wild West. Whew. I don't know what that is, but anything like that as well. The Independent goes for just how much more can NHS patients take? NHS reject 5% pay deal and vote for 48 strike. Also at the top there as well, I just want to mention that dramatic US airmen arrested over a leak of Pentagon military intelligence. Now, you may have seen this week and last week that there's been a massive leakage of US intelligence documents.
Yeah.
As well, that this came out. No idea who leaked it until recently. 21-year-old Jack Tenekirika. He used to be a National Guardsman, and it looks like he had a few questionable things on his mind. He managed to post all these military classified documents, lots of security-related information, by the way, that, national security information. That was an awful thing to leak out. Put on a Discord server and then put onto a server with his mates. How could a military man do this? I mean, why are you leaking information like this? You are responsible for information that you pick up. You should not be leaking it into it, no matter what it says. That is an awful thing to do. That is put your security at risk of your country. It is anti-American, anti-British, anti-worldwide to even do that sort of thing. And it puts lives at risk unnecessarily. And I have to say as well, he's going to face that 21-year-old who probably had a long future ahead in the military is now going to face a long time, probably spend the next 20 years behind a jail bar. He's going to be found guilty, I suspect, as well, when it goes to trial. But yeah, that is all the papers for tomorrow, the 15th of April.
That's all the papers for tonight. Plenty of them in general. And that is it for the Tonight Show podcast with me, Charlie, and of course with me, also with Zach as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week for another episode of the Tonight Show podcast. Thank you so much for watching tonight on YouTube. Take care and good night.